Hello YouTube. It's been a while since I made a video, so here we go. Today I've entitled this video How Nerds Run the World. So this video is a kind of explanation about a general mechanic that's at work. Now, there's a lot of people who have written or done a lot of work on this. Maybe broadly, we could say that this all falls under the um, umbrella of a field one might call cybernetics, but it's also connected with politics, economics, lots of other things. But the purpose of a video, like, why would you listen to a guy like me? I think because I'm going to explain and talk about these things in pretty colloquial, day-to-day terms, talking about things people are familiar with, rather than going into a lot of the technical academic jargon. So that's to say, I'm not saying anything new or radical or preposterous here. Rather, I'm saying well-established ideas or things that people have talked about, but saying it in more accessible, colloquial, casual terms. So if you're driving in your car, or walking in circles or something, you might find this interesting. Okay, so my thesis here is that nerds run the world like a computer program. So what do I mean by run the world? If we talk about politics, economics, sort of these things, well, maybe even more broadly, we could say run the world is there's a lot of people in the world and they do a lot of things. So who decides what are the things that people do? Furthermore, who decides what resources go where? So why does this person get to eat their choice food every day and this person has to eat bugs? Like, why is that? Why isn't it the other way around? Is there enough food or energy or whatever for everybody? So all of these questions like that are things that people might discuss in various ways in fields like politics or economics. But I don't think we need to pigeonhole ourselves and say, oh, we're only going to talk politics here, we're only going to talk economics here. Let's instead sort of take a step back and just talk about things we understand. So I think everybody here is familiar with what is a computer. You've probably heard, my phone is a computer. So in what sense is your phone or your desktop, your laptop, what's a computer? So basically, we're not going to go into computer science, technical, Turing machine jargon, whatever. A computer is like something that's not living, so it's not like you or your dog or an angel. A computer is some material thing that follows processes, and these processes we call computer code usually. So if you say a computer follows computer code, right? It's pretty standard stuff. So there's a sense, like, let's say you played a video game like Halo. Okay, if you play this video game and then somebody else plays this video game, because you're going through the same program, there's going to be a sense in which everything is the same experience. Similarly, with like a legal document, could be like if you're an employee in the United States, you might have to get a W-2 form and file this with the taxes. So everybody is treated the same by legal documents. Similarly, a computer code, running a program, it might all be the same. So inherent with the idea of computers is this idea of standardization or homogeneous experience. And the connection between law and computer code, maybe you could say, is a matter of speed and execution. So in the past, like a lot of stuff that we would do through forms and mail and stamp, things like that. Now, a lot of these things, like let's say renewing your driver's license, you might be able to renew your driver's license, do all that DMV stuff online using computer programs. So while we might talk about these things as being different domains, and they are in a very technical sense, in terms of like the nuts and bolts of it, there is a sense in which code as in legal code and code as in computer code, and now, in our 21st century, we're getting blockchain technologies and all these things. There's a sense in which all these different sorts of codes are all the same. What are they? Basically, they're human created. It's like words that bind certain actions, words that are used to kind of force some action. So I use this term here, a deterministic process. So a kind of program or code, legal document, tries to enforce a deterministic process. That means the thing has to go through in a particular way. So you could say, for instance, if somebody is an employee, in order to correctly file their taxes, they must submit their W-2 form. Tax season's around the corner, so that's why I'm using an example like that. But, just as well you could say, like, in order to send an envelope or a package, you must have the proper stamps, postage, all these things. So in our society, there's lots of things that are supposed to work as deterministic processes. You do X, Y, and Z, and then a certain result is supposed to follow every time. So depending how well standardized something is, how well a code is executed, that will determine how well the nerds run the world, how well the system is going. Okay, so all this legal stuff, computer code, legal documents, a lot of this stuff, by the way, as an aside, if we think of these things as kind of burdensome as work a lot of the time, meaning if you didn't have to fill out like a form to do something and you could just do the thing, I think naturally we would all just want to do the thing, and that would be one reason why, for instance, let's say every time you want to go skiing, you have to fill out all this paperwork to rent skis and not sue the ski resort if you die and like all these things. If you wanted to actually go and ski a lot, you would just buy a season pass to the mountain, and you might buy your own skis so that you could just continue to do the thing and you wouldn't be burdened by this legal documents, computer code, and all that related stuff. You could focus on the actual activity that you want to do. So, okay, now what we're seeing though is legal documents, computer code, blockchain, whatever. All these things are in more and more places because nerds would like to get their tentacles on everything and controlling the world. So why would people want to do that? One reason for this is, you could say, it's greed, control, ambition, these various sorts of general vices. Because when you control a process, you could exploit, you could basically use mechanics such as usury. So here I wrote a paragraph. I wrote, at a basic level, usury, so lending out money with interest, is the mechanic at work when you systemize all these things. So with usury, a person attempts to force a profit by math. So if I say I lend you $20 and you have to pay me back 10%, so like $22, I don't have to do anything because of writing code that is written. I'm guaranteeing myself a profit. So using this mechanic, rather than leaving things up to divine providence, lending freely, just being generous, the idea of usury is that you forcibly benefit from something. So it's not like you're lending money to, just treat your fellow human beings in a nice way. Instead, you're making use of the law or the code as a kind of like a weapon, a mechanism to force our particular result. So in our society, we're seeing a lot more systematizing of everything. So like one example in a modern city, if you go around, you'll see a lot of is ordering a lot of stuff through tablets. Um, this takes a process like ordering food, for instance, and it turns it into a computer program. So you're restricted on the number of options you could do. You know, you might select the items that you want. It might say, you know, add hot sauce plus 30 cents or something like that. But crucially, this is to try to make everything a more fixed and deterministic process. So if you have a tablet and you do ordering that way, then you're getting rid of a person, a human being, that might make an error in the process. Also, too, like if everything is on a screen, for instance, you can't say like, "Oh, I want to like tip this person," or like not tip that person, or you know whatever sort of preferential kind of human connection might happen. Instead, by trying to systematize everything, it's forcing everything into a pipeline, which nerds could go and analyze the data and optimize the profit function. So they could get the data, say like, all right, at our taco shop, you know, we got twice as many orders of beef tacos as like fish tacos. So make sure to order, you know, more quantity of beef or whatever. So, I mean, there's obvious business profit sort of incentives for why people would want to incentivize things. But systemizing everything in this particular way, to use a kind of crude analogy, it's like bringing a gun to a knife fight. it's a way of bringing in law and forcing people to interact and to engage in business in a particular way, knowing that doing that is going to be able to get you something in particular, as opposed to leaving things to be more open-ended. Okay, so I said a bunch of stuff. One might say, well, you know, isn't that just how business is done? Isn't that just how people act? That's just like economics, that's just business. Is there any other way to do things? And I would say that the answer is yes, but because in our society we're seeing this sort of systematizing going on everywhere, the alternative is becoming something that's more and more difficult for people. So what is the non-nerd alternative? Basically, the normal way stuff is done is through requests. We could even, well, I can not say we could even, this is reflected, for instance, in, we could talk about like prayer versus magic, okay? So with magic, the witch person or whatever, they're trying to force a result like, I want to send frogs on this person. So they, you know, read some weird runes out of a book and they try to send frogs on someone or make someone sick. Or, you know, they might be, oh, I'm doing like white magic. I just do the spell and I get rich. I don't know. Whereas on the other hand, when people, I'm talking about like Christian prayer, you're asking for things to be done. So you might make a request of a saint to intercede for you, to like ask something for you. You might ask something of God, or of a saint, or of Virgin Mary, of all sorts of people. But that is done with the requests. Crucially, it's not force. So one makes their needs or wants known. For instance, you might say, I don't know, my foot is injured. I want healing. And then you could make known your request that you want your foot to be healed. However, it's not forced. It's up to the person or party receiving the request to honor this request or not. Now, similarly, in society, there's a lot of places where requests is supposed to be how stuff works. So, for instance, If you ask someone out on a date, okay, you're making a request. It's open ended. They might say yes. They might say no. Um, but this is not a forced system. It's not like you ask somebody and then they must say yes. Now, I'll just note that, in a lot of school public places, especially with these kind of, say, it might be with good intentions as like a non-bullying initiative or something. People might try to force a system on stuff. So, for instance, I remember like in grade school and stuff, they would have like Valentine's Day, and they don't want people to feel bad or excluded. So they'll say, you have to give like a candy, Valentine's Day candy to everybody. So of course, I mean, we all know that people don't like everybody equally. Like that's not how stuff works. But this would be an attempt of like trying to force that result in a particular way, equity, whatever. We could get more into this another time. But right, normally stuff like forming a relationship would act on the mechanic of requests. That's like the normal human way. Another thing, like I mentioned, food and these ordering tablets and stuff too. Like tips at a restaurant. So it's kind of, some restaurants it's kind of implicitly known, like you tip your server. That's normal. But then people might give a big tip, might give a small tip. So there's something kind of personal, somebody, they might choose to be more generous to like a server who gives them like more care and attention versus a server that doesn't. But nobody is forced to give like a big tip, and that's part of what makes that sort of industry more open-ended and more human than say like if you're just, let's say you're working at a gas station and you only enter in numbers in a fixed system. There's no room unless someone steps outside of the system, but like through the system itself for something like special to happen. So yeah, presentation here titled "How Nerds Run the World." Nerds don't like uncertainty, so they want to treat the world like an engineered system. They fear that the request may be rejected, so rather than asking, they make orders. Once again, like the nerd, mage, wizard, witch person. Force result. Don't ask. Don't leave room for pain or disappointment, whatever it is, and deal with that. Instead, try to make everything forced. So, okay, what is the point of all this? Why am I bringing up this topic? One reason I'm bringing up this topic is we're in a time in the world where a lot of different people are starting to realize a lot of stuff. That's kind of not a very descriptive statement there, but I think it's like the zeitgeist, the spirit of a time, where a lot of people, let's say, all my life I believed what the news told me, but suddenly my best friend is questioning it, and now I'm questioning it too. So there's a lot of people, I think, just going around speaking with different people, being on the internet, but not just the internet, just relatives, friends, whatever, that this is the case. So simultaneously with seeing a lot of stuff getting revealed, I think also we're seeing various, you could call them kind of false revelations or false ideologies that are being given to people. So here I've titled this one thing the Fake Redpill. So I'm not going to go in and summarize the film The Matrix. There's like a gajillion videos doing that. But related to my topic today, I'll just basically say that what The Matrix is describing is basically what I'm calling here nerds running the world. So running everything like a computer program. The Matrix is like this all all-consuming computer program that everybody is forced to play in. And so, yeah, you could look at various structures and things in society as basically being like this giant video game. So, like, advancing within certain companies, even things like, real estate, buying a house, taking out loans. Like, at work today, I was just talking with people about, like, credit scores. This is like, what's your good boy score in the establishment, okay? So, a lot of people are becoming aware more of, like, okay, it isn't just I work hard at my job and then I get nice things. Like, there's a lot more to life than that. So, how do I beat the daily grind? I think there's this idea, which I'm calling the fake red pill, which is basically say, like, okay, I realize I'm in the matrix. There's all these things around me. So what my solution to do is to hack the video game. So let's just say, like, we'll go back to this usury example. Okay, I realize that these people that call themselves financial geniuses, all this stuff that's going on, they really aren't like financial geniuses. They're just doing inside trading and using usury. Okay, so somebody might have that realization, and this is saying, like, okay, I realize they use dark evil power to get ahead. Well, then my, like, red pill is that I need to use dark evil power to get ahead. So, like, recently in celebrity news, like, there's this like Andrew Tate guy who, well, I'm not going to talk much about him, but basically he referred to the Matrix, but in many ways from his, like, overt online behaviors, basically, he was talking about the Matrix, like, being the king of the Matrix, rather than transcending or being beyond the Matrix. Once he understood what the Matrix was about, it was like his online personality that he was presenting or projecting to people was basically being like, the hacker, or like the pro gamer of the Matrix. But I think that to do something like that is to miss the point. Oh, another example of a similar idea would be maybe a few years ago more popular. Like, there was this idea of a lot of investment channels, and they had this idea called FIRE. It's called Financial Independence, Retire Early. So, of course, a lot of good, useful ideas in this. You don't want to be like a total slave to the system, but is like is your freedom going to be just basically like rent farming a bunch of people and relying on usury and law and code to, like, force a particular setup for you? So that's kind of like hacking the video game, saying, like, okay, most people they're caught in the rat race and this way, but here's how you beat the rat race. Basically, you become like an owner and a controller in the rat race. Okay, so of course, this whole FIRE thing, a lot of diversity within these people that make these videos and stuff. So I'm just making a kind of general statement of sort of approach that a lot of those people would say. So my point here is that the fake red pill is talking about being the alpha nerd, basically. So there's a state of, like, nerds forcing code and law in the world, and then your idea of, like, being red pilled or, like, being a cool guy is to just, like, be the top of those video games. Well, basically, if that's what you choose to do, you're still being the nerd playing the video game. So I kind of threw out this line casually here, which is the real red pill is to stop playing the video game and maximally return to base reality. So be based, basically. And And that doesn't mean to like not play the game or to like I will never take out a loan because money's corrupt. I won't even touch it. I mean, I think people could choose their level of engagement with these things. You know, this is not financial advice. I'm not telling people what to do. But that is a very different idea of saying than saying you want to master the matrix or be the top of the matrix. It's almost like you have an indifference to the systems or the games that are in the world. Like, you win them sometimes, you lose them sometimes, or like you steadily win but you don't think much about them, and then there's other things that you do that are important to you. Okay, so let's wrap up and summarize this video because it's going off on a lot of tangents. So how do nerds run the world? Basically, nerds could rule the world when they bind everything in code of some sort. So code includes legal code, computer code, blockchain, whatever. Code locks things into deterministic processes, and through these deterministic processes, you could extract wealth. You could farm wealth via usury and related mechanisms. So it's in the interest of the nerd controllers to systematize everything, because the more areas of life are systematized, the more they could force the particular results that they would like to force, whether social or economic or, you know, what sort of movies they want to be made, whatever it is. So what should one's response to this be? My argument here with the fake red pill is that there's active encouragement by lots of people being promoted on YouTube or whatever, that one's response to realizing these things about how the world works is to basically maximally play these games and just get to the top of these ladders. However, that is a kind of misdirection, in that, you know, if you do know better, you do realize what things are, then perhaps a better solution for somebody, or a better way to consider things, is to say, why should I even engage with these bound structures to begin with, and then choose an appropriate level of engagement with these things. So it's like, all right, there's the matrix. All right, so what is the matrix in my life, and what is it not, and what do I not want to give to it that I don't have to. Right, okay. Oh, and then here, just a final note I wrote here: entertainment, news media, etc. primes or prepares us to respond in deterministic ways. That's to say that in terms of like cultural things and political things, these deterministic systems, like, human beings are not computers. But insofar as we dive into various programs, we could become emotionally attached and therefore able to be controlled by these things. So for, like, I'll give an example with like college admissions. So suppose you don't care if you get into Stanford or not. Like, it doesn't matter. You aren't even planning on going there. Okay, well then nobody's going to be able to manipulate or control you based on like hope or fear of getting accepted or rejected, you know, into your dream college. Similarly, it's just like, you could think of all the things that are advertised and promoted a lot in our society. Let's say like pharmaceuticals, movies, sports games, whatever, you know, any of these things. Insofar as you're attached to these things, and the threat of somebody taking it away from you or giving it to you could incline you or disincline you towards some behavior, you are making yourself more apt to be controlled. So the nerds, you know, they do their calculations, and they're like, oh yeah, like if we give, let's say, free beer at this event, we know that people are going to act in this way. Well, if you don't care about free beer, then it doesn't, you know, they have nothing on you. But insofar as you respond to what they prime you with, you're able to be in their systems, and the Matrix has got you a bit. So don't take the fake red pill. Don't invest yourself more and more into the Matrix and just try to become the Chad of the Matrix. That's like, being the rat that drinks the most like sugar water and runs through the maze the fastest. Like, you can be that rat if you want, but if you don't want to be, just keep an eye out for how, whether it's flattery or just even sleep, whatever it is that's being offered up, just think about it. It's like, is it really theirs to take from me or give to me, or, have I been trapped in my thinking in a particular way? All right, so that about does it. How nerds rule the world. They try to run it like a computer program, but you don't have to play. Thanks for listening.